Do you want to come in, Jamie?
Go on, James.
Right.
Go on, Jamie.
You know how much I love the limelight. Come on.
I know you do. Right, let me just be clear about what the topic is, because you weren't here the whole time. What we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is that there is an opportunity this year for Christians to recapture the Church of England for Christianity and to pull it away from liberal humanism. Now, obviously, Jamie's not a Christian, but
He's a liberal humanist.
I believe you are.
Yeah,
Right.
liberal humanism.
So he's going to make the case for the Church of England being more liberal humanist, and I'm going to make the case. Well, how do you want to engage in this then? Go on.
I'll say that.
And do you want to talk to one another or talk to everybody?
Oh yeah, good point. Let's talk to them.
All right, so let's talk to them.
No, but then it's going to be very loud.
Yeah, well, that's what I do all
Let's
the
just
time.
start and see what happens.
Right, go on,
Let me
go on.
try and see my position.
Right,
I
lay out
would-
your position.
I would say, obviously, I don't advocate for anything to do with the church. I'm advocating for a liberal, secular democracy, free market, and social democratic principles. Yeah.
Leave him, bro. Leave him.
And then you're talking about the church. And so our worlds don't really align unless you try and infringe on some of the principles of the way I want to live.
Yeah.
And so to try and sort of say what I would want the church to do, to be honest, I would like it to modernise, but I know you're like traditionalists, and that's part of the appeal, isn't it, for you guys? Religion sort of is meant to stay in its own like zone and realm and lane and tradition.
Yeah. Do you want to reply?
No, I don't.
Guys, focus on this. If you want to listen to this, focus on this. If you want to talk to him, feel free, but like, let the people behind you. So.
You're in charge here, is that it?
No, I'm just encouraging you because there's people behind you. It's just courtesy about the people behind you. It's courtesy for the people behind you. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's actually think about liberal secularism. Jamie seems to talk about liberal secularism like it is neutral, like it doesn't impinge upon Christians.
Okay.
Liberal secularism does impinge upon Christians.
It does.
When the state seeks to discriminate against Christians in the workplace or in their businesses or in school to push liberal progressive values, that is an impingement upon Christians.
Yeah, it is.
So, and he admits it. So the question is not whether our values should impinge upon theirs or their values should impinge upon ours, because that is a given fact. The question is, what values should we live by?
Yes.
Liberal secular values or Christian values? Let me give you just one example of a liberal secular value. Liberal secular value believes in individual bodily autonomy. And the UK Parliament is about to pass a law that will allow abortion up to the day that a child could be born. There is no denial to anyone with a brain that that is legalized murder.
It is.
Ladies and gentlemen, liberal secularism got us here. Christianity will get us out of the swamp. How do you respond?
Go on, James. Go on, James.
There's a minute and 30 seconds.
You can do it, James.
Okay, we've spoken before on this topic, and he's right to highlight that we all live under certain frameworks. And he's right to then assume that, therefore, this liberal world order that I'm suggesting actually does enforce some sort of framework, some sort of rules in the sand that you can't cross. We do have what we call protected classes. You can't discriminate against someone on race or sex and these sort of things. So he's right that it is not neutral, it is making claims. Well, the best thing about having a liberal democracy, though, is that you allow multiple people to have the maximum amount of freedom that they possibly can have. If we went into his system, it's going to get narrower and narrower until only the people with the correct Christianity, because it's not one conglomerate Christianity, it's little pockets of it, only one of them has control. It's going to restrict a lot of freedom. So he's saying, the problems that arise in this liberal democracy is that we're wayward in a void. But you can't have it both ways, can you? I've just accepted that we are putting values on the society, and you're saying, they're in a liberal void. The value we put on is that suffering is bad, protecting life is good, and such like this. You claim there's this one rule that abortion is going to be up until the day of one day before
The day of.
Yeah, the day of pregnancy. This seems ludicrous. Ludicrous claims require ludicrous evidence. This is not going to be common mainstream practice in the NHS and such. This possibly going to be for some sort of disorders connected to the viability of the child and such like this. This is hyperbolic again. That you think the Western world is just murdering babies. It's just nonsense.
So, ladies and gentlemen, firstly, let's be clear. I'm talking about a real law. Some of you, put your hand up if you heard about it in the news, that we're going to legalise abortion up to the day of birth itself for women. So we are talking about something real. But the point is, where does that logic come from? It comes from the idea that he articulated, this idea of individual freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say to you that freedom to just do whatever you want is no kind of freedom at all. Because freedom that makes you a slave to your passions, that makes you a slave to your greed and to your envy and to your hatred and to your jealousy, this is not freedom. Real freedom is when you discover in Christ that you can move away from these passions and organize your life by higher truths, ladies and gentlemen. Jesus said you will know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Real freedom, ladies and gentlemen, is not about choices. Real freedom is about knowledge, and about the knowledge of your life, what it is, the world, and what you're doing in it. You can have as much time as I have.
No. I'm just measuring.
Yeah, that's fine, that's fine. Now, ladies and gentlemen.
Right, I actually wasn't measuring it.
Now, ladies and now, ladies and gentlemen. The reality of our society, liberal secularism, is not, as he wants to suggest, that it is maximum freedom. It's freedom as defined by progressive politics. That's why Christians are losing their jobs, because they don't go along with progressive politics. In other words, he wants freedom for those that agree with him and penalties for those that don't. I want it in the other way around, ladies and gentlemen. The question, therefore, is not about which one is going to restrict your freedoms, but in what way will your freedoms be restricted? And I think stopping a mother from killing her baby on the day of its birth is a right thing to do and a freedom to take away.
Okay.
That's horrible.
If you actually believe, let me just start it. If you actually believe that's what's going to get passed in the UK, common acceptable abortion up to the day of birth. So whatever, I've got this chap behind. Common acceptable birth up to the day, like past whatever it is, 24 weeks at the moment. So extending that up to like 9, whatever it is, pregnant. Yeah, this is mental. That's never going to come into force in the UK. You said you were talking about the freedom that our society enshrines, yeah? And you said, freedom to do whatever you like. That is not what we have. We have a rights-based limitation on the freedoms you can do. If you cause the suffering of other people in your actions, you aren't free to do that. That is the rules we're doing, yeah? You said, no, you need the freedom to have like knowledge or whatever. We make space so that anyone could follow whatever knowledge they want and live however they like. And then the principle, if they start harming other people on a rights-based system, then we curtail that action. That is the way we're trying to expand people's freedoms. You're trying to suggest that Christianity is going to come along and say, no, I know what the set of rules are. You're going to limit the scope of freedom to just whatever the Christian values are. We're trying to enshrine a rights-based approach to life to try and maximise like pleasure and thriving and minimise suffering and harm. I reckon we can get there better with liberalism. Liberalism have proven how well it's worked over the past 200 years. It's actually absolutely helped us thrive in life. And a lot of that is because of our laws and our regulations to sort of keep paying attention to the way that we operate in our society. And we say, maybe it's wrong to sort of really hate gay people. Maybe it's wrong to sort of make actions based on race and such like this. You're going to come back to this idea that abortion is happening up to the day of birth. That absolutely is not happening in the NHS. As I said, ridiculous claims require ridiculous evidence, yeah? You're going to have to bring evidence if you want to support that claim.
Right, ladies and gentlemen. He says that we're thriving in the West. Are we? Demographic collapse is what is happening in the West. Are we thriving in the West? No. We've got a two-tier judiciary, a two-tier police force. We've got incompetent politicians that can't make sensible laws. How on earth are we thriving when everywhere we look in the Western world, we see the Western world is dying, ladies and gentlemen? Death is the very opposite of thriving. And it is precisely because of this obsession with self-fulfillment that our societies are dying. This obsession with maximizing our individual freedoms, ladies and gentlemen, is the very thing that is killing us. Because we value our own freedom rather than those things that inspire and give life. What are the things that inspire and give life, that allow life to thrive? Families, ladies and gentlemen. But if you're going to value the family, you have to make laws that support the family. So what you don't do is make divorce easy. What you don't do is support polygamy or bigamy. What you don't do, ladies and gentlemen, is legalize abortion. But what you do, ladies and gentlemen, is strengthen adoption, ladies and gentlemen. You don't help families by permitting cousin marriage, but you do help families by making it illegal. And it is in the family that you will thrive. It is in the family that you will feel fulfilled in the love of your families, not in the individual pursuit of personal freedoms. So there is a real choice between Christianity and individualism of liberalism. I'm landing. You can have as much time as I do. You have a real choice. And it is based on real differences in value. Liberal secularism or Christianity. Go on.
Thank you, Bob. So, just to get his story straight, we came from a land of peace, honey and sunshine, it sounds. We came from a great, glorious past where the family was strong and lovely and we were all thriving. This past in England was an absolute dream where husband and mother got along super well to raise the children. Life expectancy was long and disease was low as you like. Economic prosperity was reigned across the land until them evil, enlightened liberal thinkers came along and applied the scientific method to our problems. I remember that, and once they did that, we declined, didn't we? I remember all our ailments rose, our economy fell to shit. Well, hang on a second, it was the other way round, wasn't it? We got dragged out of a dark age, we got dragged out of the mud. You do not know how thankful you are for our GDP alone. You do not know how rich you are. You do not know how much we have given water to the whole world through the principles of liberal economic development. People used to starve from famine. It was a horrific place. We are thriving. You're comparing us to this golden age that didn't exist. It never existed. So that's point one. Point two, as I was saying, you're saying family is everything, family makes everything. Family life for women was probably quite shit back in the day. They couldn't even fucking vote. What world do you think they were brilliant in? Like, it was probably horrible for them. They were probably beaten up quite often. It still happens in our era now when we are trying to absolutely walk towards calling that not okay. It was a horrible landscape, and I would like to take a lot of fucking credit, or actually I would like the giants that I'm trying to stand on their shoulders, give the credit to them for the value they've given you.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's just be clear about something. The scientific method was developed by Christians. It was Christians who were doing natural philosophy because they understood that the world was created by a mind to observe laws, and they sought to understand those laws to understand the mind of God. And that is what gave us science. That was not the achievement of some post-Christian, anti-Christian society like we have today. But notice, the progressives, because of their obsession with self, because of their obsession with intersectionality, have come up with such amazing things as saying that you can choose your gender. That is anti-science, ladies and gentlemen. That's come from liberal progressive thought. The liberal progressives have said that mathematics is the white man's invention. That's what they're saying in America, ladies and gentlemen. Utter rubbish. Every society did maths because we're learning maths from nature. We're learning the language of the Creator, ladies and gentlemen. The other ridiculous point that the brother made was this idea that we came out of the Dark Ages. He's clearly not an historian, because the Dark Ages ended in the 800s, ladies and gentlemen, and then we moved into the medieval period, the early, middle and late medieval period, then the Renaissance, then the Reformation, then the Enlightenment, ladies and gentlemen. And the Enlightenment is the 200 years of history that he's talking about. But here's the thing that his short-sighted view of history misses. It was all the epochs of Christianity that led up to and made the Enlightenment possible. It's basically taking the Christian ingredients and then coming out with a flat cake, ladies and gentlemen. That's what the Enlightenment is. It is a Christian mistake. And on that entire journey, ladies and gentlemen, there has been progress and the raising of human dignity. Was it perfect? No. But I don't think that we've achieved much when we live in a society that says we don't beat up women, which I agree with, but we can kill babies. That we got rid of slavery because of Christianity, not because of the Enlightenment, but we can divorce at the drop of a hat and destroy families and the lives of children. The Enlightenment is a distortion of Christianity. Muscular Christianity is a correction to the Enlightenment. Go on.
My allegiance to the muscular Christianity. That's pretty cool then. This history you tell again sounds remarkable. Christianity in all its different forms sort of pull itself out of the mud and becoming a superhero. Christianity can do it all. It gets nothing wrong. It stopped the slave trade, you say.
It did.
It's amazing. It can just do everything. That's the only thing we ever need, really. That's just Christianity. Praise Christianity. Yeah. Just what? Is it all in that book, is it? It's just
got it. He's got it.
It's all in that book. So that's amazing. It knows everything about it. It's remarkable, really. Just Christianity is going to pave the way forward. Yeah.
Is that your reply? Can I reply to that?
I'm just trying to process things. Oh, you also talked about Christianity is amazing and did everything brilliant in the Western world. All things bad came from liberal, naughty thinkers, but all things good came from the Christian. Got that. What was it? The murdering of babies. That was from the bad people, isn't it? But Christianity is going to sort that. So it's like a superpower. It's just going to solve everything. It's just going to be remarkable. I worry about the people that don't have Christianity, you know. I reckon we should go around the world giving... Hang on, I'm on the time.
Your voice is too castrated. You need to speak up louder. So the back can hear.
Alive.
No, bro, me. Yeah.
Thank you. It's a very muscular voice, isn't it?
Alive.
Go on, Jamie.
Go, David.
I'm just quite blown away by his worldview, to be honest. He's given me a story of Christianity being the best thing since sliced bread. It can do it all, you know. I was going to go on to say, we just need to get this Christianity out there in the world. We need to go pushing this on people, because as soon as they start getting the love of God in their heart, love of Jesus, they're going to be able to rise up like nobody else, isn't it? We should send it to every corner of the world, this Christianity, wholesale package it out.
Can I reply?
Say it again.
Can I reply?
Not Catholicism.
Can I reply?
No, not yet. I've still got a minute and a half.
Go on then.
Not Catholicism.
Why? What's wrong with Catholicism?
What do you mean, what's wrong with it? Don't you know about it?
I don't know about anything. I'm just learning from Bob.
You're losing your time, bro.
I'm well aware, but I've got another minute and 15 seconds.
All right, you use them.
I'm just learning from Bob here that Christianity can solve any problem in the world.
Follow Jesus.
Follow Jesus. That's what you believe as well. Yeah.
Not
Okay.
the ecumenical movement.
Yeah.
No.
It's really quite a difficult one to argue with because you just are saying it's brilliant. You're saying it advocated for the ending of the slave trade, but there were Christians that advocated to remain the slave trade. And so you're going to say, well, them ones were the bad ones. And so, okay, I can't criticize, they're not the Christians. You're just going to move until you do everything brilliantly. I can't really, like you're saying, the application of science and the application of like free markets, that's Christianity. Everything's just going to be Christianity. So anytime I look at something good, it's Christianity. Anything I look at something bad, it's not Christianity. It almost seems like is evolution Christianity? That's my question. Is evolution Christianity? That's the question.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let me explain to you the secret power of the Christian faith
There's even more.
that is shared by Protestants, Orthodox and Roman Catholics. This is what that secret power is. It's called the idea of metanoia, the idea of repentance, ladies and gentlemen. The reason why Christianity makes things better is because right at the very heart of what it is to be a Christian is to make sure that you know what you're doing wrong and change, ladies and gentlemen. And how do you measure what you're doing wrong? You measure it by the embodiment of love that is exemplified by Jesus Christ. And you recenter your life again and again and again on love and hope and faith rather than lust and hatred and anger and jealousy and envy and lust, ladies and gentlemen. And when you recognize that humility should replace pride, you begin to repent and you begin to change yourself. When you recognize that loving your wife is more important than dominating your wife, you begin to change yourself. That sharing your wealth is better than accumulating your wealth. You begin to change yourself. And the power of love is this. You can have as much time as I have. The power of love is this.
That's the power of love.
Yes. Thank you. All together now. So the power of love is this, is that when it is consistently practiced, ladies and gentlemen, it begins to change and transform its environment. Like a river carves a path through the landscape and digs huge trenches into the ground. So love, when practiced consistently, it doesn't bring about the revolutionary change, the bloody change soaked in blood by the French revolutionaries, the liberals. It changes society through that general transformation that leads to the creation of societies, communities, institutions, civilizations, kingdoms and states that organize themselves according to Christian principles. In 200 years, we have seen the failure of liberalism, but Christianity was improving Europe for 1700 years before this misstep by our ancestors, and it is time to correct that misstep. Go on.
Okay. Okay, let me get the stage. Can I have the stage, please? Can I have the stage? Let me just put the thing. This is brilliant, actually. He might have actually converted me to a Christian here, you know? Because he has just redefined Christianity to be exactly what I want. To have a principle of sort of love and self-determination on what is good and bad by what you feel and think about it, and to pay attention to the world and see where you're doing harm and bad. I'm
Notice
so
you're not
on board with
heckling
that.
him.
I thought Christianity was like reading a
I was about to,
book
actually.
and trying to interpret the
Stole
word.
your thunder.
That's what I thought Christianity was. Something like that shit. If he wants to like centre some sort of like, oh, I understand, love and compassion is within me, and I got to look at the world.
That's not unique to Christianity.
Of course it's not. He's completely changed the definition.
Hardly
of
a heckle,
of
Steve.
Christianity.
Bit of a letdown.
I can't argue with this
Apologise,
nebulous
Bob.
thing. He could never hold a position. Yeah, that's what I mean. If you really genuinely believe, all you need is love in your heart.
All you need is love. Ba-ba-da-da-da. All you need is love. Ba-ba-da-da-da. All you need
All right, let him finish. Let him finish.
I prefer the original. But,
Go on.
yeah, then I actually love that. That's almost close to empiricism, isn't it? You get theories, you test them against the world, and you get the impact back. I'm great with that. All our laws and our states can be based on this. Compassion for people, and not wanting to infringe on their rights, and like an elevating of their thriving, and we're going to pay attention. Oh, if we make this law, it did this outcome. Okay, let's change that there. You completely converted me to Christianity. I love it. I love it. It's the
can I
best
reply?
thing. No, give me.
Yeah, as
30
much time.
seconds just to revel in this light that I've discovered today. The light of this love, honestly.
Sticking to the place in the middle. Are they put a Christian Jesus?
To sort of, it's brilliant. I think I'm going to go and
Right, ladies and gentlemen.
1 minute 44, and then I'm going to go.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear. Notice two things. One, the sheer power of the Christian argument cannot be argued against. The idea of organising society in our lives on love naturally rings true to all of us, because we all know that love at bottom is the thing missing in every world problem, in every individual problem, in every problem of every kind of relationship. And that is the truth that will set you free, and it was brought to you not by me but by Jesus Christ. But notice the second thing, how he subtly tried to shove liberalism back in. The idea that we can have love and then individual freedom to make your own moral choices. This is what the liberal humanists don't understand, because they are not good students of Jesus, because they are not good students of love, is that when you commit to love, you become a slave to love. And love decides what is morally acceptable. It is not a free-for-all, ladies and gentlemen. But love does require freedom, which is why Christianity is not about forcing people to become Christian, but it is about loving your neighbour and looking for the good for your neighbour that you want for yourself, ladies and gentlemen. And that means, do I want my own child to be aborted on their birthday? Then I should pass a law that stops any child from being aborted on their birthday. And you can apply the logic in ad nauseum to every circumstance and situation.
Okay.
1 minute 44.
I think let's just take a minute, turn down the temperature a little bit. Like I said, I'm out of here a little bit. I think we made a little bit of progress here with Bob today.
Turn them into a Christian.
Yeah.
Jamie!
Yeah, no, I think we could probably end it there. I got nothing more to add. I was going to add something at the beginning, but I think I lost that part.
I heard a story. Evolution?
Oh yeah, you didn't answer that, did he?
So I'll do that very quickly.
Okay, hang on, you get 30 seconds.
Christians are not obliged to oppose evolution.
Why?
Why? Because evolution is about the study of the natural world, and there is nothing in the theory of evolution that contradicts any aspect of the Christian faith.
Oh yeah.
The scriptures are talking about theology, not biology. They're talking about theology, not physics. They're talking about theology, not geology. And so we should read the Bible as it is intended to be read.
Okay.
Just to show my love to Jamie,
No.
here's a gift.
No.
I have a gift. I have a gift.
It's a gift.
There you go.
Thank you. I've got another.
See? We love Jamie. There we go.
I got another question.
Wouldn't the world be better if you treat all your enemies like this?
I got another question. We said, oh, love is all you need. Actually, sometimes we need a bit of a brain, don't we, to like work out like difficult problems. There are difficult problems in the world, like cancer and like resource use and things like this. So it's not only love that we need, we also do need to have a brain. And some of the best ideas come from probably outside of this book.
So let me just explain something to you, Jamie, that you're missing.
Yeah.
Is the Christian life, one of the ways you could sort of characterize the Christian life is to be a student of love. That you always operate from love, and you learn what is the best way to love in every situation. And let me finish.
Yeah, okay.
So, for example, we see a homeless man. The homeless man asks us for money, but we also know that that homeless man may very well have an addiction. The best way to love him is not necessarily to give him money, which is a way of loving him. The better way to love him is to buy him the thing that he needs directly, or to give it to a charity that will help him.
Okay, let me have 30 seconds. Another one, I was just thinking, because now, like I said in part of my thing, everything has become Christianity, isn't it, to our eyes, because we've labelled love as Christianity. But there are people that haven't even been touched by Christianity. They've just been human, so they just have the love inside themselves. So let's say there was a group of people like way off yonder, and they had a culture and a society, and they had words different to ours, and they embodied this love and compassion, and then they started studying the real world and deciding which way to navigate. They might call it something else, like Hinduism or Buddhism or whatever, and they might have a whole different thing, but you're doing the same thing, they love. So then you can even get rid of maybe the word Christianity. Maybe there could be like atheists that don't really pay their mind to God anymore. They just pay their mind to love and the natural world, and they just go in that pursuit. They don't want any of the old words to limit them. They just follow what they think is true and honest and good. Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, love is a natural resource. Natural in the sense of we are all wired to love. It is something that we are born into, that we have as part of our mental framework. The thing that is radical about Jesus' teaching, the thing that he puts his finger on, the truth that Jesus teaches in a way that no one else did, is that natural love, it needs to be at the very center of our lives, but it needs to be something more. It needs to be directed to God. It needs to be supplied by the love of God so that it becomes an endless resource. We all know, ladies and gentlemen, we all know that our natural capacity to love has an end, a limit. But when we attach it to the inspiration of the love of God and the practice of the love of God, it expands itself out even to include our enemies, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, well, as I was listening to you talk, you said many people are fueled by this compassionate thing, and you said Jesus is the best touchstone for this sort of love.
Yes.
But like I was trying to say, Buddhism has its own understanding of compassion, and it has its own teachings. And so Buddhism doesn't really have a notion of God. Of Jesus. I think it teaches something very different. It says sort of give away your ego, and compassion and love will naturally arise. So I don't actually think we should use this word Christianity to have such a monopoly on this way of living. I think we should call it something like being human and wanting compassion, and then we can sort of use any tools we find from any corner of the world. If we find the Inuits up north have some really interesting method by like making clever decisions, I'll be the first to write that down in my book of ideas I've gathered from around the world. So I'll give you credit and Christianity for credit for like getting us so far, and then I'll give someone else for getting us further. But like maybe we can be like big boys and be our own explorers. And maybe we could be explorers. Maybe we could be our own explorers around the landscape of ideas and just pick them up as we go along, get a nice collection of like things that make us live well together, establish, work out what's best for us, and just call it.
Shall I reply?
Being human.
Let me reply.
Like a humanist.
Let me reply.
Let's be humanists.
Let me reply. So firstly, let me just correct him. Because he doesn't know anything about Buddhism. I studied Buddhism at university. I did a degree in religion. And I promise you, Buddhism does not center on love and compassion.
No, it doesn't.
Buddhism centers, ladies and gentlemen, on disattachment from the world, with the idea of separating yourself from your passions, of which love is considered a passion, so that you can escape to nirvana, ladies and gentlemen. So, and this is the kind of sloppy thinking that liberal humanists do. They lazily just stick all the religions in and say all the religions teach the same. I'm telling you as a religious studies student, they do not. Christ is unique. Christ is influential in being the first and the greatest teacher of love. And only religions that come after Jesus Christ that have been influenced by Christianity may approximate the teachings of Jesus. Islam doesn't, Buddhism doesn't, Hinduism doesn't, but neither does liberal humanism, because at the beginning of our conversation, the humanist wasn't talking about love, wasn't talking about compassion. What was he talking about? Freedom, choice, individualism. Those were the things that he put at the center of his argument, showing that he is now trying to co-opt Christianity for liberal humanism rather than accept that Jesus is his teacher and submit to Jesus as his Lord.
Okay. We're gonna go to a strict 30 seconds only, yeah, from now. First second only. 30 seconds only. Oh, he's just taken the rug from under me again, hasn't he? It's not that freedom is the cornerstone of liberalism. We do really care about it. It is a very important part of it, yeah. But we balance it with rights, not so much the responsibilities, but the rights and responsibilities of how to live. And so, I think what do I want to say? I was saying, no, go on.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, here is another fault of liberalism. Liberalism says that it's all about individual freedoms within a system of rights and responsibilities.
Yes.
So you can do whatever's legal,
yes,
ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
And that's the problem with liberalism, because it says that whatever the Parliament says you can do, you can do. But here's the strength of Christianity. It says that you measure your life according to the example of loving Christ, and you repent and you change. Even if the law allows you to do what is wrong, you don't do what is wrong. And we have a fixture of what makes right from wrong, ladies and gentlemen, a North Star.
Done. Okay, yeah. Bob's got his North Star in like God or whatever, or Jesus or something, and now he's sort of suggesting that he's got this communication. What he needs in his society is members to listen to this God or this Jesus and sort of work out how to live through listening to that. That was not what I was saying. I was saying liberal humanists in the society should pay attention to the ideas that they hold, what they do in the world, and how it affects them. This is why it was an empiricism to pay attention to the world and watch the feedback loop. I thought that's what we were saying. Now you've changed your Christianity to be getting divine inspiration. That is the one thing I fucking hate. Because we should pay attention to our own little world.
So, ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear about how Christianity works. You read the Bible and you learn the stories of the Bible, and you learn the meta-narrative of the Bible. And then the church steps in and the church highlights to you what are the doctrines, the pegs of that story. And from these doctrines, you evaluate the doctrines to determine what is valuable in your life, what is valuable in society, and then you create laws and practices around those values.
Okay. My turn. Yeah, that's a good way to live. I quite like that way of living. Apart from...
It's getting closer. It's getting closer.
5 seconds. I'm going to add 5 seconds. Apart from... There's other documents that we can be inspired from. Humanist liberalists, they turn to loads of different literature. To only have like Christian thought is only to be encouraged in one sort of school. We've got like all different types of literature from all over the world. The types of books that and stories and parables and fables that we could teach to our children to learn how to like orientate themselves in the world. We tell them fairy tales and heroic adventures. Sorry?
Pick and mix.
We got everything you want. We got little beanos. We got any sort of stuff we like to teach children good morals and to give them like an intuition on what they like and what they don't like. Most people like to live by each other's happiness because that's a human thing. So we tell stories where good wins and evil fails. It's not only Christianity. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Let's be clear. That's not what liberalism is doing. Liberal society is not teaching good character. Liberal society is teaching you your rights and your responsibilities, and then saying you can divorce without blame and whim and ruin the lives of your children. You can murder your children in the womb. You can marry your cousin. You can... And that's the kind of thing that liberalism is allowing, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about character development, because liberalism has no character development and no narrative to do character development.
Okay. Okay, well, he's wrong statistically. As I said, Stephen Pinker highlighted this in his book, Enlightenment Now. He's shown how the trends of all sort of metrics of human flourishing are wildly trending down. Violent crime on the streets, death through war. There's millions of, not millions, there's like hundreds of these metrics. Death in the workplace. There's millions of metrics. The theft, where humans are actually doing better. He did a book called Better Angels of Our Nature as well. He showed people do want to sort of like progressing towards having a better thing. So you're just wrong that like we used to live in a golden age and then the liberalists taught the wrong thing and now we're in the gutter. No, we've been teaching, and if we're getting more secular, I think we are, less religious, then it's liberal teachings or atheist teachings or whatever, then we have been teaching people and we are getting into a better world. So you have to engage with the facts on the ground.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear. I am not denying that in some way society's improved. There's no denying that, of course. But there are lots of ways in which society is failing. And you only have to look at the last 200 years of liberalism to see that it was born in blood. Look at the French Revolution and how they treated the Vendée. They slaughtered nearly 30% in a genocide of those Christians that rejected the revolution. And then what did the Enlightenment go on to do? Colonialism and colonial empires, ladies and gentlemen, that only ended in 1945. And has our society been getting better and worse since 1945? It's been getting worse. In other words, it was being propped up by imperialism, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, go on then.
For Bob, who would Jesus
So we're doing
admire
questions.
more?
Yeah.
Who would Jesus admire more, and who would be the better Christian? Somebody who was indoctrinated into Christianity from a young age, or who spent their life searching different religions and came to it through their own free will? Who do you think? Because
Okay, I understand the question.
The second choice would happen in a liberal, in a liberal environment.
So let me address the question.
Rather than
Let me address the question. So what does Jesus value? He values faithfulness. He values faith. In who? In Him, ladies and gentlemen. So He would value the Christian that was raised as a Christian and lived faithfully as a Christian more than someone who freely chose to reject Christianity and follow a false god. But the one that would be valued would be the one that would give their life for Christ, whether they were raised in it or made it by a free choice.
But she was asking, like, if someone who lived a brilliant life, they were like morally very, very admirable, yeah. And you're saying Jesus would not sort of admire that person, a freed man who just roamed and came to a brilliant understanding of morality as he learnt it from the ground up, from first principles.
Can I reply?
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, Christians say this, that all your works are filthy rags before a holy God. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, you can never be good enough to enter into God's presence. But God, by a free gift of His mercy offered to us through His Son, Jesus Christ, allows us to enter into His presence and then values our works and then values what we do, ladies and gentlemen.
That was 30 seconds. Sorry, I messed up this fucking watch. 1 second.
I'm enjoying this debate.
Yeah, I know,
I wish we would have debated more like this in the past.
It's because I'm Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's because I'm tracking time so brilliant. Okay.
Go on.
Let me just line up my thoughts.
Shall we take questions?
No, I got it. This is going to be a bit of an attack.
Go for it.
They say patriotism will come wrapped in a flag. Sorry, fascism will come wrapped in a flag. They mean if you become too patriotic, you can lose your way and you become fascistic. I actually believe something like this might be happening with Bob. Bob is coming in love. As in, like, as the lady asked, she said, what about freedom? Love without freedom is coercion, is something very dark. So maybe his love will come, he will be cloaked in love, but it will turn into fascism. If we have theocratic nationalism, all of this Bob's love might turn us into little creatures in a cage. Sorry.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear. Christian nationalism rejects the idea that your identity is based in the nation state or based in your ethnicity, but rather that the church is a nation. And as a people, as a nation, we Christians are allowed to pursue political objectives in accordance with our own values, ladies and gentlemen. In other words, what he's arguing for is saying you can't be political, but we liberals can. If we can be liberal, we can pursue. If we can be political, we can pursue a political agenda that accords with our faith, not with his philosophy, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, I think I'm going to call it there.
All right, really good.
Yeah, cheers.
That was good.
Yeah, well done.
I enjoyed that.
Well, it's because I timed.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, well
We'll
done.
do it again.
Yeah,
Have a read of that book.
Yeah.
Come and talk to us again.
Cheers.
Yeah.